This episode of My Hero Academia was not playing around in the slightest, and I really didn't know where they're going to take this episode. I mean, we knew Shigaraki was pretty damn close to waking up. There's no way that they actually destroy the little test tube that he's in, and obviously the arc comes to a close a lot faster, unless they somehow wanted to introduce a bigger villain than the man that could touch and destroy literally anything, right? So it just seemed pretty damn obvious that eventually he would wake up, and I mean, sooner rather than later is the only way to go about it. Even ignoring maybe some fan pushback about how long this arc took to get here sort of a thing, and people being relieved to finally see it in all of its glory, no padding, just all the meat and potatoes. It just felt like this is the natural progression. Sooner than later, he would pop up, and shit would hit the fan. It's just a matter of what would that look like? What would be the introduction to show this man, basically the root of all evil right here. And to see the idea of him just walking through this, floating, destroyed city. There's the hands, there's buildings, there's people from his life, and the family that's trying to hold him back. There's some amazing directing at one point where, the dad's, kind of looking over and then it just becomes all stone because he completely obliterates it. But then to just see that who he chooses over his family sort of a thing, and then to just see him jump up from basically being almost he got some electricity to the heart there and everything kick-started. And just to know that the brutality, the bloodshed, and the horror that we've seen over the past couple of episodes, this one included here, it's gonna feel like child's play, right? Because when you really look at Twice, right, I think it's safe to say Twice was probably one of, if not the second most deadly threat that they had to worry about. And Twice is dead. It's confirmed. 100% in this episode, Twice is gone. And it was pretty obvious last week, but there's always that kind of thought in the back of your mind, what if they come back? But no, it seems like they're committing to it, and it makes last week all the more impactful. But Twice had the potential to be the biggest threat that they would have to deal with. So Hawks' determination to, commit to killing the guy after giving him multiple chances and ways out because he saw, this is a dude who literally just was dealt a shitty hand in life and honestly doesn't seem like a bad guy in the slightest. But to see, how he was getting his ass handed to him after dealing and just, finishing off everything there as you have Dabby just, burning him left and right. And just to see how it just gets worse the more characters you focus on. I mean, Mirko did an amazing job. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But the girl is destroyed. Every time they would focus in on one of these almost tentacle-like vines piercing her leg or piercing her arm, it's not like they just did a little blood splatter effect. They would literally zoom in and you would see the meat separate. They went so hard into the brutality that I'm honestly surprised that there wasn't more sugarcoating certain details. It would be very easy to get the overall message of how bloody someone is without zooming in on their wounds and seeing them just in that much pain. But leave it to Bones, man. They ain't pulling their punches this season, and it's almost like a thing, we're at season 6 here. You gotta understand, if we're dealing with something that could destroy the world, we're gonna show that it can destroy the world. And the just brutality of it all and the sheer determination, it's one of those things where you obviously know the big bad villain, Shigaraki, is going to pop up. He's going to wake up and he's going to be worse than we've ever fought. But still, that determination and putting yourself in these characters' shoes, you understand why for them, they haven't given up hope the same way probably an anime watcher is, or at the very least the anime watcher is hoping and expecting that the big bad will pop up because it'll make the show so much more exciting, even if it'll make it more deadly for these characters. But when you look at it from their point of view, they really still had time, Endeavor and all these characters, it felt like they all understood their purpose, they all understood they needed to die for this mission, and as long as they could destroy that test tube first, everything would be fine. And I like how rather than it just being they all end up leaving afterwards, because it's one of those things where, okay, we destroyed the thing, the dude has no heartbeat, we gotta move because people are literally dying. One dude stays behind, and, in a matter of seconds, the whole electricity thing kicks off. It's not like the body was sitting there for minutes or anything like that, right? Just everything feels very well thought out and planned, and the fact that characters are dealing with what they are, right? You know, it just feels like everyone has their time and moment to shine, but most importantly, everyone feels important. Like when you see Mike come in and just punch this Dr. Robotnik looking mofo in the face, like it's just nice to see how, as I've been saying, like characters who either don't normally get times to shine or characters you don't expect to get times to shine, you know, they have these moments. And I love the fact that you just see everyone, you know, really feel like they had a purpose in this fight. And the whole idea that, you know, someone like Racerhead can't just go and help someone, because if he does, then they will regain their strength. So he has to stay behind almost by himself, sort of a thing. And it really feels like everyone is giving it their all and willing to die for this mission as you're just building and building and building to that grand ending, which it felt all but obvious to me pretty much within a couple of minutes of this episode. Like, there's no way he doesn't wake up this episode. But I expected a blue balls cliffhanger. It just wasn't quite as bad as they ended up giving me, because, I mean, wait a week to see the next hurrah. But still, the fact that they committed to that is pretty damn fantastic. And seriously, it just feels like this season is really well polished. Like, there's still moments which I thought initially, like, when we first saw Mirko, right? And she did that initial run through the hall and she was the Namus, right? It just was a really well animated scene. I think it was episode 2, right? Or maybe it was even episode 1 they initially showed it. But, you know, usually when you see those like key moments, okay, it's there for 15 seconds. Of course, it's, you know, badass and animated really well. But even in this episode, they're still showing her do some crazy things with some great use of camera work and some insanely well detailed animation. Like, it really feels like this season is way more refined than normal. And as far as I know, I don't think there's another movie in the pipeline right now, so maybe that's the difference, is that, you know, they're not spreading their resources between a season and a movie right now. Like, that's the only thing that makes sense to me, because in terms of production time, it's not like they were given really all that much more time than usual, because we get My Hero every year, right? So it feels like that's probably the big difference. And honestly, if there's any season that I hope gets more polished out of the past 3, I mean, it's right now this one. So I'm glad that this one is the one popping off, and maybe the other seasons walk so this one could run, sort of a thing. But either way, like, the fact that we are at this point where, you know, characters are like, why the hell does this guy know my name? Of course they mute it, because why wouldn't they? And just the brutality, the bloodshed, and how everyone feels like they could die at a moment's notice, and everyone is already feeling like they're at their breaking limits, and the battle literally just started, and the biggest of threats just kicked off. It's not often you can say a character like Twice got killed last week, and that's already a small detail in the grand picture of where we're about to go. But leave it to My Hero Academia Season 6 to prove us all wrong about how great this season would surely end up being, and I'm very excited for more. But thoughts, feelings, ideas, theories on where the hell we go from here, do let me know. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. Until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.